everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to tackle the VPC challenge from Cyber. Cyber offers an amazing course on AWS security, that is Introduction to AWS Security, and this challenge is a part of this course. So without further ado, let's dive into the question. So our challenge is to create a VPC with public and private subnets. Okay, if you scroll down, you will see the details of this lab. Okay, here we have a scenario that is create a VPC named cybr-vpc-lab that contains 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets, and each of the public subnets should reside in different availability zones with a private subnet in each of those zones as well. Okay, and we have to use the CIDR block of by 16 for the VPC and CIDR block of by 24 for the subnets. And then we have to create an S3 Gateway VPC Endpoint, and that will be connected to the both of the private subnets. Cool. And here they are saying that don't use the VPC and more option because it is a automation part, right? And they challenge us to manually create all of these resources. And here we have a tips that remember what makes a public subnet versus a private one. Okay, we know that. Before we launch a resource, it's a great idea to verify its pricing first. In my case, I'm using AWS credits, so I don't have to worry about the pricing, but please make sure that you guys check the pricing before launching or using the resources. So before we start the practical, let me show you a simple architecture diagram. I'm not really good at the design part, so please bear with me. So we have a VPC that is using the CIDR range by 16, and then we have 2 availability zone, that is US East 1A and then US East 1B. In those AZs, we need to create both public and private subnets. Okay, one public and one private subnet in US East 1A, one public and one private in US East 1B. Next, we'll attach an internet gateway to our VPC for internet connectivity. After that, we need to create a VPC S3 endpoint and attach it to the private subnets. And to check the connectivity, such as accessing the S3 data, we have to launch an EC2 instance in the private subnets. But for accessing these private instances, we'll have to launch a bastion host in our public subnets. So this is a very simple architecture diagram that I've created. So let's see how we can solve this challenge. Okay, I have already logged into my AWS console. Let me search the VPC service. Click on VPC and create VPC. I'm going to use VPC only option, and the VPC name will be the cybr-vpc-lab. So let me copy the name, and the CIDR range will be 10.0.0.0 by 16, and tenancy will be default. Okay, let's create a VPC. Okay, our cyber VPC is here. Now it's time to create subnets. Click on create subnet button, and we have to first select our VPC, that is cybr-vpc-lab, and this will be our public 1A, and availability zone I will select US East 1A, and the CIDR range will be 10.0.1.0 by 24, 256 IP address. Let me copy the name, by the way, and let's create subnets. The public 1A is here. Let's create another subnet. Select the VPC, and this time I'm going to use the public, and I will select the US East 1B availability zone 10.0 by 24. Okay, now let's create the subnet. Now we have to create 2 private subnets. So click on subnet, select the VPC, and this will be our private 1A, and the availability zone will be US East 1A, CIDR range 3.0 by 24. Let's create the subnet. Select the VPC, name will be private 1B, and the availability zone will be US East 1B by 24. And let's create the subnet. Okay, cool. So we have these two public subnets and two private subnet in two different availability zones. Great. Now it's time to create an internet gateway. So click on internet gateways and click on this create internet gateway button, and I will name it as IGW, and let's create an internet gateway. It is in a detached state, so let's click on action, attach to VPC, and select our cybr-vpc-lab, and let's attach the internet gateway. Cool. So now it's time to create route tables. So click on route tables. I'm not going to use the main route table for this VPC, that is cyber VPC, this one. This is a main route table, by the way, but I'm going to create the separate route table for public and private traffic. So let me write public RT, that is route table, and select our VPC, that is cyber VPC lab, and let's create our route table. Create another route table, and this time we are going to create the private RT, select the VPC and create route table. Okay, now select the public route table, click on the routes, and here we have to edit the routes. Okay, click on add route, select the all traffic. Target will be our internet gateway, and you have to attach our IGW here, and let's save the changes. And now it's time to associate subnets. Okay, so click on subnet association, edit subnet association, and this is our public route table, right? So I'm going to use our public subnets, public 1B and public 1A. Okay, and let's save association. So in our public route table, we have these two subnets, that is public 1A and the public 1B. Cool. Click on route tables, and now it's time to select the private route. Click on subnet association and edit the subnet association, and we have to add our private subnets in this route table. So private 1B and private 1A. Let's save the association. Now the route table part is clear. Okay, and it's time to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, click on launch instance, and this will be our bastion host. Okay, just scroll down, and I'm going to use a T2 micro. Let's create a new key pair, and I will write bastion key, create a key pair. Okay, now let's edit the network setting, and we'll select the cyber VPC lab, and I will use the public 1A subnet. Okay, I'm going to launch this instance in my public 1A subnet. Auto assign IP should enable. Okay, so let's create a security group for our bastion host. So I will name it as bastion host. We'll copy the same thing in the description, and source type will be my IP. Okay, cool. So let's launch the instance. Click on instances, let me create a filter here, instance state equal to running. So our bastion host is running. Cool. So let's launch another instance. That will be our private instance. I'm going to use the Amazon Linux AMI. Instance type will be T2 micro. Let's create a new key pair, and it will be the private instance key. Okay, let's create a key pair. Let me allow it. Click on done. I have to create a new key pair again, so private keys, create key pair, and click on edit. Select our VPC, that is cybr-vpc-lab, and this instance will be launched in the private 1A. Okay, so the auto assign public IP will be disabled because we are launching this instance in our private subnet. Okay, let's create the security group, and I'm gonna write private instance security group, same description. So here is an important part. In source type, you have to select the custom. Okay, in source, you have to provide the security group of our bastion host. Okay, now let's launch the instance. Now let's select our bastion instance, and you will see the public IP is here. If you click on the private instance, you will notice that there is no public IP because we have launched this instance in a private subnet. Okay, now it's time to connect to our bastion host. So for connecting to this bastion host, I'm going to use the pageant. In putty or in putty, we have this authentication agent, that is pageant, and it is used to store and manage private keys used for SSH authentication. Let me search the pageant. Okay, and let's hit enter. Okay, so the pageant is already running. It's a hidden service, by the way, so you can see the pageant putty authentication agent is here. Okay, and if you right click on it, you can view the keys. Okay, I have these keys, so I have to remove it, right? So right click on the agent and click on remove all keys. Right click and click on view keys. So we don't have keys here, and we have this .pem file in our download folder, so we have to convert it into the ppk file, and for that we will use the puttygen. Okay, let's hit enter and click on load. In my download folders, I have our keys, the private keys and the bastion key. So let's click on bastion key. Oh, successfully imported. Cool. And I'm gonna set the key passphrase. Okay, let's confirm the passphrase and let's save the private key. This is our bastion, right? Bastion key. Click on save. Click on load, and this time I'm gonna select our private keys .pem. Successfully imported. Passphrase. Let's save the key. This is our private instance key, right? Hit enter. Right click on our agent or pageant. Click on add key, and I'm gonna select both of these keys, and let's open it. So we have to enter passphrase to load the keys. Okay, you guys can check the keys. Okay, we have imported the key successfully. Now it's time to connect to our bastion host. Let me copy the public IP of our bastion, and let's write putty, and we have to provide the IP address, and the port is 22. And here we have an important step. Click on the expand the SSH tab and click on the auth. Okay, select auth and allow this configuration, that is allow agent forwarding. Okay, let's click on open, and accepted, and the login as EC2 user is our name. And to verify SSH connection was made using the SSH forwarding, we can write this command, that is echo SSH auth sock. Okay, and let's hit enter. So we have used the agent forwarding. That's cool. Now it's time to connect to our private instance, right? Select the private instance. We don't have the public IP, so I'm going to use the SSH command, SSH EC2 at 10.0. Sorry, 3.247. Oh, permission denied. Okay, I have made a mistake. SSH EC2 user, okay, at the rate, and then provide the private IP address 247. Let's hit enter. And yes, now we are connected to our private instance. Okay, let's see. We have completed these two steps. We have created the VPC, we have created the subnets, we have created the internet gateway. So now we have to create an S3 VPC endpoint that is connected to both of the private subnets. Okay, before we do that, let me quickly create a IAM role. Okay, IAM role, click on roles, click on create role, AWS service, use case will be EC2. Okay, scroll down, click on next, and I will provide this role the S3 full access. S3 full access, click on next, S3 admin cyber. Okay, let's create a role. And I'm going to attach this role to our private instance. So I've already selected the private instance. Click on action, go to security, and then modify the IAM role and select our this S3 admin cyber and update IAM role. Okay, so I've already attached the IAM role that has the full S3 permission. Okay, so let's write the AWS S3 ls command to see. Okay, so after attaching the role, okay, with proper permission, we are not able to access the S3 data because we have launched this instance in our private subnet. Okay, so in this situation, we have to create S3 endpoint to access these resources securely. Okay, let me just stop this and let's create our, okay, let's go to VPC and let's create our endpoint. Here we have endpoints, click on that, create endpoint, and let me write the name here, S3 endpoint, AWS service, and in services I have to write S3, S3 global access point. No, I don't want that. Service name is S3 and I'm going to use the gateway service. Okay, it is a free service by the way. And let's select our VPC, scroll down, and it is the best part, huh? You have to select the private route table, okay, because we wanna securely access our S3 resources. Okay, so private route table is selected, scroll down, full access, I'm okay with that. Let's create the endpoint. So in route tables, you can see the private route table is here, and if you click on our route tables here and click on the private route table, you will see one route will be added. Click on edit routes and you will see the S3 endpoint gateway is added. Cancel it. Now let's check whether we can access the S3 data or not. Let me write the same command, AWS S3 ls, and hit enter. And yes, we can access our S3 data securely. I have 3 buckets here. So that means we have successfully completed this task. I highly recommend you guys to go ahead and practice this scenario in your own lab environment because you will learn a lot. Make sure to delete the resources. So let me first delete the resources. Terminate the instances. Click on terminate. Okay, so we haven't used the NAT gateway, but remember that NAT gateway will charge you money. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you like it. If you did, then please share this video with your friends and your colleagues, and make sure that you guys are subscribing to my YouTube channel. We'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning. Bye bye.